G'day. Today, if you watch this episode, you'll find a little bit about what structural engineering is and what we do with structural engineers. My name is Brendan, and I'm a structural engineer for over 15 years. And in this channel, I'll be providing technical advice on how you approach designs as a structural engineer and a little bit how to progress your career faster as in the structural engineering field. As a structural engineer, where do you start? You start at university in a degree called civil engineering. Now, civil engineering is really a broad topic that ranges in breadth, as it has anything to do with constructing a city. So whether that be the water systems, the road systems, or even buildings. Today, I'm going to be focusing on buildings as a structural engineer because that's really where I fit in my career. Structural engineering is a broad topic in itself, as you can start at some of the very smallest structures to some of the biggest you see in the world. So some of the tallest skyscrapers, some of the biggest stadiums, some of the longest bridges. So we can either be involved with structures or even infrastructure work. Who is involved with building design? When you look at a building, you need a number of professionals to come together to create the final product that is that structure. Now, these range from the structural engineer, what I am, an architect, that makes the look of the building and how people interact with the building, the mechanical engineer, that has to do with the airflow in the building and making sure that people are comfortable inside, the hydraulic engineer, that has to do with the water in and out of that structure, and the electrical engineer, which provides lighting, any electrical ports inside and out. Now, they're the primary people that are involved with the building. There's also other engineers to a lesser extent, but these are the primary functions that you need to ensure that you get an operational building. Now, I'm going to focus on the difference between what an architect does and what a structural engineer does. So, what a structural engineer does, they essentially design the bones of the building or the substructure that's involved with like columns, rafters, and other elements that help stabilize that building. Where the architect is involved with the overall fabric and how people interact with that building. So often when we build our drawings and what we look at as a structural engineer is often covered up by the facade that the architect encases that structure in. Structural engineers, what do we do? Structural engineers, we need to make sure that the structure is able to withstand any forces that may see through its lifetime. And these forces are broken into really two main primary aspects. These are either gravity forces or lateral forces. Gravity forces are pretty self-explanatory. So they are anything that's within the structure that causes weight in the structures. These are broken into a number of different subcategories as well. You have dead load and self-superimposed dead load, which is normally permanently on the structure. So these are things like the substructure of the building and also finishes and facades. And we have live loads that are transient in nature. They are things like people moving in and out of the building. Now there are lateral loads that are perpendicular to gravity. These are things like earthquake and wind and even out-of-balance soil loads that cause the structure to move sideways. We have to make sure that we account all of these forces in our design to ensure the structure is stable. The skills required to be a structural engineer. As a structural engineer, you need to be good at maths and physics, as that's primarily where you're going to focus your technical aspects of your career. You also need to be good at problem solving and solving puzzles, because a lot of the time you'll have a problem that's thrown by the architect. They want to achieve some aspect of their design, and it's not necessarily a clear way that you can actually see that solution. So looking at potentially out-of-the-box solutions and different ways that you can achieve what the architect wants to achieve.
One of the ideas I like to smash is that engineering is not creative. I think this is not true at all. Because when you think about some of the best designs, they have to be truly innovative. This is what makes engineering an art form and really hard to master. Now, this can also be seen in some of the great churches that are built around the world, where some of the best architects and some of the most creative minds that you can see have created masterpieces, where they also had to be architects, but they also had to be engineers to be able to build the masterpieces that you can see today. None other than the Sacra Familia made by Gaudi in Spain. It's really a marvel to see the eye and has pushed the boundaries of structural engineering even today.
The responsibility a structural engineer has.
When you design a building, you have the ability to affect many people's lives. As whether it's an office space, you potentially affect someone's work, whether it's someone's house where they live, someone where they've built their home. So when you work out in the structural engineer, you should hold your head with pride with the ability of the work that you do and the way that you affect society around you.
A bit about me.
I'll give a little bit about me. My name's Brendan Hasty and I'm a structural engineer in Australia. I've worked all up and down the east coast of Australia, starting in Melbourne. I've worked in Brisbane, Sydney and Canberra. I've done a number of projects in Adelaide, Darwin, and all the way across to the west in Perth. This can be a breadth of knowledge that I hope to impart to you. My knowledge ranges from timber, concrete, composite, steel, and even into some rehabilitations of buildings as well, and done some work on heritage listed buildings that I hope to give all that information across in the many episodes that I like to see into the future. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you did enjoy this, there'll be more of these topics coming out, so please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any differences of opinions on what structural engineering do, or any topics you'd like me to cover, please comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Anyway, thanks for watching and look forward to seeing you in the next episode.